funny here. It's so funny because right now, just starting to make this video. I don't know if I explained this in my other videos, but like in my other channel, I always preface like starting the video by getting rid of all my tics. So I found myself doing that, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is a tick video, so let me tick on in the video. Anyhow, today I'm gonna be talking about my tics and school. So what do I mean by that? So basically, I'm going to be talking about as far as I can remember me having tics and how I dealt with them while I was still in school, going from elementary school to college, I guess. So yeah, so let's begin. So starting from my earliest memory in school having tics was in kindergarten. And the tics I had back then were my facial ones. I think this is the longest one I've had, which is like the grimace and the head shake. So I remember my earliest memory of my tics in school was me sitting in my kindergarten class, and we used to not have, well, in kindergarten we didn't have backpacks. We had folders that we would hang around our necks, and I remember it was just like a flat folder, like about this big, and what I would do is, like, inconspicuously, according to my baby self, I would squeeze the sides of it. So I don't know if I have something to give an example. Well, I don't, but I would squeeze the sides, so then instead of the folder being like that, it would like puff open like that. And I would shove my head in there, and I'd start grimacing, and then I'd get out of the folder. I'd be like, oh, what? Oh, me? I'm not up to anything. But I think it looked worse, or I drew more attention to myself shoving my head in this folder in the middle of class rather than just like ticking away. But I remember I guess I didn't know what my tics were, but I'm assuming since I didn't see anybody else ticking away, I guess I felt ashamed or embarrassed by them. So since then, it's not like anybody pointed them out to me. It's just I was always just self-conscious about them. So yeah, so since kindergarten, I've had my tics. I know I've had them earlier because I remember having tics earlier than that, but my first instance in school was that. And so yeah, from there I progressed. I would always try to hide them. First grade, I would do a lot of like arm tics and stuff. I remember I wasn't like a bad kid. Well, to my standards, I wasn't a bad kid, so I was like kind of like goody two-shoes. Like I didn't like breaking the rules, or I didn't like doing bad things, right? So I remember this time I was in first grade, and we had like a mixing class, so I went to like a different classroom, right? And I had a pencil, one of those that didn't have an eraser on it, and the teacher said something, and I don't know what made me do it, but I was like, and then like I went like this really fast to the table, and I like scribbled on it with the pencil, but I didn't do it too right on the table because I made a point. Even till this day, I don't like graffiti or anything like on tables, especially school tables. So I did that. I remember doing that, and then I went like that with my pencil, and I was like kind of ticking out, and the teacher was like, Wendy, and I was just like, yes, and then she said, we don't do that in this classroom. And I felt awful. Like to this day, I feel awful because I'm just like, I'm not a bad kid. I didn't do it to be like a latchkey or anything. Like I was like, honestly, like it was a tic, but again, I didn't know how to like explain that, so I was just like, I took my punishment. And that was like in first grade. And just throughout all of elementary school is basically that. It was like a lot of like my tics just like went like on and just progressed. Sometimes they got better, sometimes they got worse. And then I remember in 5th grade, I had them probably the worst. And it was a lot of head ones, I had a neck one that went like this. Like I would do that constantly. Oh no, I don't even want to do it because it's like coming back to me. So point is that I did a school play, and I was like acting and doing all this and that, and I was going, and then I remember afterwards my friends came up to me. They're like, hey, why were you doing that? Like, is that part of your character or what? And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, you kept doing this. And I was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, it was part of my character. I did not like it, but like then later on they saw me still doing it. They're like, I know she's still not a character, so yeah, I guess that's weird. But that's another memory I remember about my tics. But from what I can remember, all of elementary school, I didn't know what this was. I didn't like bringing it up. I didn't talk about it. So I try to hide them at all of elementary school. And all of middle school too, because I remember in middle school, like in elementary, like kids didn't really like make fun of me. Like I guess kids never really made fun of me because of my tics or anything. Like at least to my face. Like for all I know, they're like, ah, look at the ticky girl. But in middle school, they would bring them up more. Not to be like, oh look, like not to poke fun, but more like, hey, what's going on here? Like, why are you ticking? And I remember like all of middle school, I tried to suppress them even more because I didn't like when they brought them up. Not because they were bringing them up, like no, they were more like questioning me, like, why are you doing that? And I didn't have the answers. Like if I knew the answers, if I knew what I had back then, I would be like, oh, and then I would have explained it to them. But since I didn't know and I didn't see anybody else doing them, I felt like, oh, like what is wrong with me? And like the reason I never knew or anything is because like my mom had brought it up to the doctor. She was like, hey, why is my kid like twitchy? And then the doctor was just like, oh, some kids just twitch. And I was like, thank you for the concise answer. Like, what is it anything? Like we were trying to find out what it was, and the doctor was like, no, just sometimes kids twitch and it'll go away. And then we were like, all right. And then as the years went on, we were like, well, it's not going away, doctor. And then they're just like, too bad, so sad. But up until I started doing my own research and I found out, even when I freaking found out and everything, I was just like, oh, this sounds like what I have. This might be it. I went to my doctor. I was like, doctor, guess what? I think I know what it is. I think I have Tourette's. And the doctor was like, maybe you do. Like, I was just like, can someone just give me like an answer? Like, maybe there's a way I can help it along or anything. And they're just like, well, yeah, maybe. Like, that was like her answer. And I was just like, oh, freaking, like, give it to me straight, dog. Whatever, so I digress. Point is that, yeah, middle school, I try to hide them. And then coming to high school, I showed them more. Like, I didn't suppress them as much. I did suppress them, but I didn't suppress them as much just because I was already more like outgoing in high school. I was more like, even if I didn't know what it was, like I knew how to like, I guess in any situation I would know how to defend myself if people would be like, oh, Twitch girl or something like that, you know. So yeah, so in high school I wouldn't suppress them as much. I still would, but people would talk about them more. So they would be like, oh, like, why do you do that? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know, sometimes I twitch. And they're like, oh, okay. And they would just leave well enough alone. And anytime they would like ask me, they'd be like, but what do you have? I'd be like, oh, I don't know what I have, but I just feel like twitching. And then like I would, like, some people who would want more, like they would poke deeper, I would just be like, oh, well, this is the urge I get and I have to do it. And they're like, oh, okay, cool, it sounds cool enough to us. But that's pretty much all they would ask me. Like, it wouldn't be like so much. So I only remember one instance actually where someone used my tics like as a, like, well, I could actually think of several instances where people would try to use my tics against me, but all of them except one was like for like comedic purposes. Like they were just like, oh, like I would joke around with people and they would joke around with me, and the only time that they would, like, sometimes they would bring up my tics and be like, oh yeah, like tick 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 or something along the lines of that, and it wouldn't bother me, it wouldn't, but some people were like, whoa, like that's off topic. Like, I guess it was just like, I don't know what people would think. Again, I'm not in the minds of other people, but like my experiences were just like, oh, people just knew not to talk about them. But again, I didn't have a problem with it. It just had, like, I guess when people did it, like started like poking fun, but like in a fun like kind of way, people would be like, whoa, do you cross the line? Like they would like kind of feel like that for me, and like when they would see me laugh, they'd be like, oh, I guess, I mean, she's not like too offended or anything like that. But I just remember one time that this girl tried to not use it against me, but she said it in a bad way, like saying like, oh, at least I don't do like this with my face or some like dumb stuff like that. And I was like, okay, like that's an insult. Like my face is like this all the time, and then just occasionally it tics, so like it's not my fault. I'm sorry if I do this a lot. I like expressing myself with my hands. This isn't a tic, by the way. Anywho, so that was high school. Another thing that I had asked my boyfriend, because we went to high school together, I had asked him, I was just like, oh, well, like, obviously they wouldn't say it to my face, but did anybody say anything, like, behind my back? Like, I wanted, like, to know the scoop, the inside scoop, and he was like, no. It was, so essentially, it was, like, the same thing as, like, what happened. He was just like, the most that they would say is, like, oh, why does Wendy do that? And then they'd be like, oh, I don't know, and they'd be like, oh, okay. Like, that was, like, the most that happened on behind my back, according to him. But yeah, so I guess it wasn't, like, that big of a deal. And I'm thinking maybe they would have talked about them more. Maybe they would have pointed them out more if I was more, not open, but like if I expressed them more. If I was like, if I wouldn't suppress them as much. Yeah, I think they would have pointed out more, or other people. Because like the most I would do in high school is probably move my head. Oh, actually I did leave out a story about that. One time, it was 9th or 10th grade, I think it was 9th grade. My shaking head tic was really bad in high school. So I remember one time I was in class and I was shaking my head, right? And we were reading with the whole class and I was shaking and shaking and the teacher comes up behind me, and that teacher was kind of like an ass. Like I didn't, like he was just like really, I don't know, assy. And he was like, you're distracting the class with your head shaking. I was like, okay, well I can't help it. And I don't know what he thought. I don't know if he thought that I was doing it like to be a jokester or something. But he already knew I ticked. Point is, he comes up behind me and he holds my head, and like you guys know, those who have tics know that like if you suppress someone who has tics, they get tickier. Like it just like goes on overload. At least for me, like if you get suppressed, it just goes on overload. So he grabbed my head and I started shaking violently. And the harder I shook, the harder he held my head, and the whole class was laughing while that was happening. And I was just like I felt bad. Like I was just like, I mean, it's like a teacher shouldn't be doing that, like because he doesn't know. Like, I mean, he had never asked me about my tics or anything, if I was comfortable with that. Like, either way, even if anything, like, I don't think that was appropriate of him to do. But, yeah, you live, you learn. But, again, I wasn't, like, a pansy back then. So I wasn't like, Mom, this teacher did this. Like, That's basically, like, my reaction. Like, yeah, I was, like, embarrassing and stuff. But I totally forgot about that story, though. But I guess that was probably my worst experience in high school or in general with my tics. Because, like, aside from that, like, and that was a teacher. It wasn't even students that would like do that. It was like a teacher that did that. So anywho, and then so basically going off to college, it just progressed right there. In college, nobody brought it up. It was probably just like that. It's just people try to probably go in there, do their class, and get out. They're not even interested in anything else. So I had my tics there too, just nobody ever paid any attention to them. And I think that's pretty much it. So this one was a very short video. I just wanted to show kind of like a timeline of me having my tics in school, and how I dealt with it. And like, thankfully, I didn't have a bad experience with my tics. Like, I know some people, I know it could be like bully fodder, because like I would understand why. Like, it's you think that you would have like a target on your back, and I guess in many instances you can. But like, if any of you are like still in school or anything and they're scared to show their tics for that reason, like, just if you have to do it, I mean, you have to do it. Like, if anybody were to make fun of you, just like, well, again, that would be me, because that's like my personality. I would just be like, would you make fun of a kid for having asthma? Like, would you make fun of a kid? No, like, so you're the one looking dumb right now. You're making fun of me for what, having the tic? Like, is that like all you got? Is essentially what I would do. So you guys should not be embarrassed to show like any of your tics in public, in school, anything. If anybody has anything to say, you guys can go ahead and comment and I will take care of it. I'm kidding. But I will tell you guys like what you can say in those instances, because I know some people can just be jerks. Like, in this world, people are jerks, and like, it's just, I guess it's just how I am, that I want to stand up for for everything. Pretty much it. I can't think of anything else, but if I'm missing anything, if you guys have questions or anything that I missed, you guys could go ahead and comment below. Also, please let me know of any other video ideas that you might want to see from me, and that way I can start uploading a little more frequently. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So until next time, bye guys!